again, CrossFit has been around a while. There's been a lot of turnover in gyms. I think some of the gyms that are surviving now, the demographic is getting older. Everyone
Yes.
who was, a 35-year-old badass 15 years ago is now, pushing 50.
Welcome to the CoachMD Podcast. I'm Dr. Charles Glassman, bringing you 3 decades of experience as a physician and a coach. Join us as we navigate the maze of medical advice with real-life stories, empowering you to take charge of your health. In our That Happens segment, guests share transformative experiences, reminding us that we're all human and not just patients. So get ready for a journey into healthcare reimagined, where empowerment and discovery pave the way. Hey, I'm Dr. Charles, aka CoachMD. In my over 30 years of medical practice, I made it my goal to help people create strong minds, healthy bodies, and unshakable spirits. And that's why I launched the CoachMD podcast, because I wanted to get talking with people who sometimes actually take their health into their own hands. Now, I'm not telling people to do that, but unfortunately, oftentimes a doctor-patient relationship doesn't always fulfill the needs of true health and true vitality. And a lot of times the answers come from individuals who do their own research. And I always position myself, and that's why I call myself Coach MD, as more of a guide to my patients, more of a coach. And that's how that evolved. And what I'd like to do over the next several weeks and months actually is have a series of the Coach MD podcast where I'm going to be focusing on a very particular type of fitness. And the reason why I'm going to do that is because exercise is one of those things that many doctors recommend to their patients. Oh, how do I lose weight, doc? Oh, diet and exercise. Okay. So, okay, what does that look like? What does it mean? How do you do that? Well, I'm I just turned 65 at the end of last year, a month ago actually, and I've been doing a particular type of fitness. And those people who listen to this podcast know that the fitness that I do is what's called CrossFit. And so what I'd like to do in the next few weeks and months is talk to people who are my age, okay, consider masters athletes. Now, CrossFit considers masters athletes like anyone over the age of 35. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous, right? But I want to talk to real masters athletes, okay, kind of senior citizen masters athletes. And so my first guest is Jim Cordes, and we could talk like this. I could, because we know we get the AARP mailings, right? So we can kind of talk, but we do something that most people don't do, and that's CrossFit. And I had worked out all my life. I did karate, I ran marathons, but I never found a exercise that did everything. And it's so important as we age, especially this is targeting baby boomers. We're at the end of the baby boomer generation and we're aging, we're losing muscle mass. So I want to help those who are looking to get better and to get stronger, give them some guidance. So, Jim, thanks so much for coming on, agreeing to come on the Coach MD podcast today. Really
Yeah,
appreciate
you
it.
bet. Tom Brady is a masters athlete as well, but he's
Right.
45, so
Right.
Tom's not available, so here I am.
Right, exactly, right.
Yeah.
And yeah, and Jim, I know Jim's a very busy professional, and like most of us, that's a big excuse, obviously, that oh, I don't have time. So tell us a little bit about your fitness journey. Like, how did you start thinking about needing to maybe get in better shape or do some exercise? How did that begin for you?
Sure. So that's actually kind of a long answer, but I'll shorten it. I really wasn't much of an athlete in high school or college. After I graduated from UCLA, I started ski bumming and realized, hey, this is fun. I'm kind of good at it. So I actually started as a skier, where I first recognized that, hey, I'm an athlete. I like doing physical stuff. So I skied for a while. I mountain biked. Then I moved down to Santa Barbara and I rode my bike. Then started working out in a gym. Eventually, I found a kettlebell coach.
Hmm.
And so we were doing kettlebell classes on the beach. And I was aware of CrossFit. I was reading about it. So now we're in the 2008, 2009 period. I was aware of CrossFit and I was intrigued by it. And when a affiliate opened up in my town, I signed up. So I've actually been doing CrossFit in the same affiliate since 2009.
Wow. Awesome.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
great. And so, the founder of CrossFit was Greg Glassman. A lot of people ask me if I'm related. I'm not. I do respect him and I think he's great. Maybe we are somewhere down the line, but I'd like to think so. But anyway, CrossFit, he was a gymnast and uh, started to develop gymnastic moves in physical fitness, so as functional movements. Now, you said about the kettlebell. Now, not everybody knows what a kettlebell. We're going to show it, what it looks like on the screen. But what are some of the things when you were on the beach? So this
Right.
you were skiing and then you were on the beach. I love that combination. In California, you have that, right? You have the
Right.
beach and you have Mammoth Mountain or whatever, and it's a great combination. But so on the beach, would you be with a trainer? Was it what did that look
Yeah,
like?
there was a trainer. So it was a small class. There were probably four of us, and we had a trainer, and he just, I think, advertised on Craigslist or something at the time. And
Right.
we would just show up and, he'd run us through about 45 minutes to an hour of kettlebell training a couple times a week.
Yeah.
And, he showed us the moves, showed us how to do it. And, it was fun. It was fun being fit. It was fun playing with kettlebells. It was fun being on the beach.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. Yeah, so that's the kind of an introduction to whole body fitness and functional movement. So, as we get older, so many people, and contemporaries, I mean, complaining of back pain, complaining can't lean over, can't stand up straight. I mean, you start incorporating a lot of these movements into your everyday life. Like I tell, like with my dog, walking my dog, bending down to pick up the poop, right? I'm thinking about a deadlift or a squat or what kind of movement is my weight back is what it's automatic. But so so you started doing the kettlebell, and a kettlebell, as you saw in the picture, is something with a handle and a weight at the bottom, and you can just hold that handle, and you could do all sorts of things, weightlifting, anything you could do with a dumbbell, and more you could do with a kettlebell. So when you first went to you had some introduction, obviously, to one of the weight type of weights that they have in a kettlebell gym. But what was that like? Your first experience, if you can remember, going into the CrossFit gym? Because I'll tell you mine, but you know,
Sure. So there was one of the first CrossFit affiliates in our area was actually down in Ventura. And even before and Ventura is about 30 miles south of Santa Barbara. And even before they had their gym, they were doing outdoor classes at UCSB. That's where the founders
mm,
of that gym were. And so I went to a class, and I remember really clearly what it was. It was doing dumbbell deadlifts and then kind of transitioning into push-ups and then doing some running. And really, it was probably the first time where I wasn't either running or biking for an extended period of time, or doing weightlifting where you do 8 sets, do 8 reps and then you
right.
rest a few minutes and do seven. And it was actually, wait a second, I'm moving around, I'm doing stuff, it's keeping me interested, it's getting my heart rate up, and it's doing multiple things at once. So I'm not just running and getting my heart rate up. I'm getting my heart rate up by lifting weights, which is including building some strength. So I liked the fact that the movements have multiple utilities. They're making you strong and they're getting your heart rate up, or they're working on your endurance. But it was really useful. It was really functional, kind of a magic CrossFit word,
Right.
and it wasn't boring. And
Yeah.
so I was like, boy, I really like this. I think this is going to catch with me.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a buddy who was on my back probably for 5 years, right? Trying to not getting him to CrossFit, getting him to what we've now called CrossFit Light. Okay. It was attached to a physical therapy place and they did those kind of movements. Then I had my hip replaced and that place closed. and we were working out with a kid. He was just out of college. His parents, who were into CrossFit, let him turn his garage into a CrossFit gym, and we trained with him, and that was brutal. Okay, but then he moved away, and we found a local affiliate, which Mawa CrossFit Mawa in Mawa, New Jersey, right on the New York border, and that's when I started really getting into classes. And as you said, it's not boring. And you also have muscle confusion, if you will. That's another buzzword in the fitness community, where you're doing different things and you're getting benefits and not even realizing you're getting the benefits. So I never, like yourself, never knew that you could get aerobic with not running or not biking or doing a elliptical machine or a stair climber or something. Whoever thought of aerobics lifting weights? I mean,
Right.
you know, doing thrusters, which is you squat down and you push that bar up. I mean, that gets your heart rate up. So I know that I've had a kind of an evolution in CrossFit now, that not to get hurt. So tell me, like, initially, because I know that that's something, especially for an older. So, and let me put it this way: I'm calling gym an athlete. I'm calling anybody who comes to CrossFit an athlete, because that's what CrossFit. It doesn't matter if you go to one class. Once you step in the CrossFit gym, you are considered an athlete. So I don't care if you are somebody who's never ever done any type of physical activity or sports before. Once you step in that gym, you're an athlete, and your gains are going to be personal to you. And tell me a little bit about, because I know it's very intimidating when someone first comes in and sees you're in classes with 20-year-olds, you're in classes with 70-year-olds, and you're in classes with people who are lifting 300 pounds, you're in classes with people who are lifting just the barbell or doing no weight on there. So tell me kind of what how you process that initially and going forward.
Well, again, that's kind of a it's kind of a big question. I mean,
Yeah.
CrossFit sort of back in the day really marketed itself as, we're badder than you. We are
Sure.
tough. Our warm up is your workout kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
And so it tends to self-select competitive type A people.
Yes.
And, I certainly am one of them.
Hmm.
And so, you start out, I mean, either you're going to be attracted, this is back in the day, either you're going to
Yeah.
be attracted to this whole ethos or you weren't. And so you're in with a whole bunch of people who have a similar ethos and you are pushing yourself. I know this is sort of the lead up to the
Yeah. Yeah.
question
Yeah.
you're
No, go
asking
right.
me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But, and one of the genius things that Greg Glassman did was, he had gyms have whiteboards and write their scores and their names and their times on the whiteboard. And somewhere along the way, I heard, people will kill for a point. I mean, the competition and it really pushes yourself. And so early on, you are able to do things that you never could even visualize doing before. There's
Hmm.
famous workout Murph that, among other things, involves 100 pull-ups. I would never do 100 pull-ups. You out of your mind? That'd take me a month.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it started. Now, as I've been getting older, and I've been doing it forever. I kind of feel so. For me, I feel like I've slayed all the dragons I have to slay, and
Yeah.
really now it is about just knowing kind of what I can do, knowing what my comfort level is, listening to my body a lot. And I'll say too that, again, Cross has been around a while. There's been a lot of turnover in gyms. I think some of the gyms that are surviving now, the demographic is getting older. Everyone
Yes.
who was, a 35-year-old badass 15 years ago is now, pushing 50.
Right.
And I think the gyms recognize that a lot of their clientele are masters level athletes. And so, our coaches certainly recognize that we're not going to be out killing ourselves like the 20-year-olds are. Now we will work out with the 20-year-olds. The workouts will be written for, kind of the prescribed loads are pretty aggressive, but
Yes.
there's a real effort or a real recognition that most people have got to scale that down, scale the weight down, scale the intensity down. And good coaches, and I'm at CrossFit Pacific Coast in Santa Barbara, and our coaches, Chance and Danielle, they do a very good job of recognizing that. So there's not you're not getting the pressure from the coaches to kill yourself, but at the same time you are, the intensity is where the magic happens. You're not going to
Yeah.
make any progress if you're not under physical or mental stress.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. We were talking with my coach the other day, Denise, who's one of the coaches, and she was saying that back in the day when they have the CrossFit has what's called the open competition, and the open competition has different levels. It has the wide open to everybody. Then it keeps whittling it down to quarterfinals, semifinals, and then finals. And whoever makes the finals, whoever wins it, is the fittest man or woman in the world. And it's true. I mean, the person who wins that is definitely the fittest. I don't care who you're talking to. They can do it all.
Yeah.
But back in the day, all they had was one prescription. Oh, you had to do whatever they prescribed. Now there's all sorts of different levels. And when I first started CrossFit, I did find myself injuring myself a couple times. And that was because I did a few different things. One is I was looking at what other people are doing and not not personalizing it, not knowing that I'm in competition with myself. Certainly when there is some you can compete, like you said, there's a whiteboard you can put your time in and compete against if you choose to do that. I was doing that and found that I was pushing myself too far. And so scaling it back, having rest days in between, I found myself making much more advances and understanding that it's more about the form. Now, I used to ski a lot too, and I was one of the things that when I took ski lessons, and my wife also, because we wanted to know the correct form. It's like anything. If you start playing golf, don't just go out. Take lessons first because you want to get foundational. And so I started scaling myself back just so I can get the foundational movements correctly. And once I started doing that, I stopped injuring myself, and now I feel like because I feel it's so good for people to do CrossFit that I want to really talk about, you know, what you do now to as you're getting older, what you do now as far as preparation for a class and during the class and recovery from classes. Do you have any type of routine?
Sure, I do. And I mean, my routine is pretty basic. I mean, CrossFit kind of is my sport. So I'm not doing I mean, occasionally doing other things, but I'll ride my bike into the gym, and then I will usually stretch out different parts of my body, either that feel stiff or that are going to be used during the workout. Over the years, I've had a couple injuries. I've had some physical therapy, and I've gotten some physical therapy exercises, which even to this day, I do. So
Me too.
I'll get there a little early. I will stretch myself out. Good CrossFit gyms will warm you up. I mean, we don't say, okay, it's 6 a.m. Start lifting those weights. I mean, the
Right.
good gyms, they'll warm you up. So
Hmm.
we'll just do whatever the coach says to warm you up. And then the workout will be written up on the board. And traditionally, CrossFit will have sort of a men's weight, a men's RX, a men's prescribed weight, and a women's prescribed weight. And for the longest time, I was like, got to do this prescribed weights, got to do this prescribed weights. That those days are long behind me now. And now I'm more or less looking at a couple of things. I'm looking at the lesser, the lighter weight, the women's prescribed weight. So that
Hmm.
think probably the lighter prescribed weights is how I like to think about it. But again, I've been doing it a long time, so I know what weights work for me, what weights don't work for me. Um, there are modifications to certain exercises. There's certain exercises. I love CrossFit, but there's some things they do that are kind of dumb, and I just don't do those
Right.
things.
Yeah.
And so I will do my own modifications. I will pick the weights that I know I can do comfortably and safely. Frequently, a workout will be based on a percentage of your max. So I think the other day we were doing front squats, do a set of 4 at 83% of your 1 rep max.
Mm.
Well, my 1 rep max was, 8 years ago,
Right.
when,
Right.
all cylinders were clicking. It's like the golfer, right? Well, that one time I,
Right.
drove that Island Green 180 yards with my 5 iron. No, that is not my 5 iron anymore. Um,
Right.
so, uh, so when we say 80% of your 1 rep max, in my mind, I've sort of scaled down my 1 rep maxes by about maybe 20 or 25%. So,
Sure.
my front, I don't front squat 200 pounds anymore. So I'll figure, okay, 160, that's my new one
Hmm.
rep max. And then 80% of that is whatever that is. So that now that comes with doing it a long time, knowing yourself. I would say if you're watching this and you're interested in joining CrossFit and you don't know what your 1 rep max front squat is, that's okay. The good coaches will, uh, and most CrossFit coaches who are still around, frankly, most gyms that are still around, will be staffed by good coaches who
Hmm.
will build you up to that. And like you say, the it's important to get the form right. It's important to do the reps right before you build up the strength. You'll get
Yeah.
as much positive reinforcement out of doing thrusters properly at 65 pounds than you will sort of struggling and half-assing a 95-pound thruster.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's great advice. I remember when I started CrossFit and I had my hip replacement. And before I went to the CrossFit gym, I was back squatting a lot more because I wasn't going down all the way. I was going down maybe perpendicular, I mean, it just wasn't. So I go there, I put on the weight. We're doing a heavy lift day for back squats. So 1 rep max. We're trying to establish a 1 rep max. And I put that what I thought was on, and the coach came, this guy, Steve, one of our coaches and one of the owners, comes over to me, says, Charlie, says, take all the weight off your bar. So it's a 45-pound bar. And he says, I just want you to put 10 pounds on each side. So that was 65 pounds. And I'm like, again, this is why you can't look at anybody else. You have to be in your own, because he wanted me to get the right form. He wanted me to go down past parallel and really hold it and then come up
Yeah,
and really with my weight back, really good form. And I didn't start building. I built very slowly from that. And it's really important to understand, especially if you're going there for the first time. And like you said, the good coaches are now the programming is different. Even the prescribed weights, it like our coach will say, we have a performance level, a performance tier, and we have a fitness tier. And even with that, you can modify. Okay, it doesn't matter who. It
right.
doesn't matter, right? And so it's about the correct form, and it's about yourself and your own where you are in your own journey. So, I think that's really a really important point to do that. And I know that CrossFit has translated into my personal life, into my daily life, and how it's functional fitness. Do you think about like what you've done, like certain movements when you're going through your life? I mean, some of the movements that you do, I'm sure
Well,
it's become, you know, second nature by now.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Even something simple as bending down to pick something off the floor. I'm conscious about keep my keep my weight sort of evenly distributed through my feet. Try not to keep your knees too far over your toes. Um, and you learn. I mean, you just learn how to stand.
Yeah.
I remember taking a class and like, how do you stand? Well, this is really how you're supposed to stand. Put your feet in the ground, get them kind of outwardly rotated, sort of tuck your hips up. I mean, just getting your body, I guess I would say becoming aware of your body and where your
Yeah, that's
body is
good.
in
Yeah.
space is a big thing. So, I'm not hurting myself by not thinking and reaching across my body and bending down and picking up a really heavy weight with my offhand. I mean, that kind of twisting stuff, that's how you get hurt. So I'm aware of where my body is in space. I've got a really good idea of what it can do because I am, pushing it all the time, which, means you can kind of do some fun stuff safely.
Yes.
I've done Spartan races. You know, by and large, just kind of showing up and doing them. I will say the days of showing up and winging it are pretty much gone. If I want to run a half marathon now, I will have to train for it. But back in the
Yeah.
days, like, look, I know I can do that. So I would
Right.
just do it. So you have a lot of confidence in what you can do because you know what you can do. You know what you can't do. And again, I think just knowing knowing where my body is in space, knowing what it looks like properly to bend down and pick something up. I mean, I'm not literally running the drill through my head, but I've picked crap off the floor for a long, long time in CrossFit, and it's just kind of second nature how to do it.
Yeah, because
So
I know even before I started CrossFit in my 50s, I'd bend down, I'd get up, I'd feel like tight. And I look that as you see, because most time as we age, because gravity is pulling our vertebrae together, and most of us develop a fusion of our spine, whether just that's what happens. So you'll see that people will start going like this, and you'll see they're not standing up. Their lats aren't engaged. Their rhomboids aren't
yeah,
engaged. Their back shoulder muscles, um, and they do that, or people will round and get the hunchback, because they don't have the strong back muscles. And that's one thing I learned, and which has helped me a great deal. And one of my injuries was I developed what's called a lateral epicondylitis. People know it as tennis elbow. And that was because I was doing improperly the exercises. Uh, because a lot of the exercises we do, most of them, they teach you how to use your back, because the back muscles, the back part of our body is really the strongest. We're so is needs to be the strongest because we're so much being pulled forward by gravity, and we overuse our biceps, our quads, our all the anterior part. And CrossFit, what it does a lot of times is it focuses on building up the posterior chain muscles. And so I know that the way I got over my tennis elbow, and it was kind of a blessing that I got it, because I may have kept going without realizing how weak I was back there. And between the physical therapy and the coaches focusing on that, I've made so many gains, especially last year, where we're doing pull-ups, doing kipping, doing chest to bar, whatever. I could never have done that if I didn't have a strong posterior chain muscle. So, thinking, like you say, thinking about it, you don't even think about it in your daily life. And I know you must know your contemporaries, because, that's one thing, being our age, okay, in our 60s, that you have contemporaries who you see, we compare ourselves with people in the CrossFit gym. That's such a small microcosm of society, and especially in our age group. So it's really important to stay in our lane and to really get those gains and to help in our daily life. I'm sure you see your contemporaries, uh,
oh,
kind of,
absolutely, yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. And there's quite a there's quite at this point, there's really a broad range. I mean, there are some people who are really doing badly,
Yeah.
and then there are people who stay fit, and it's yeah. I like to think you don't get old, you don't stop moving because you get old. You get old
Right.
because you stop moving, and
Absolutely.
there's a lot to that.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. Yeah. So Jim, I'm going to ask you. I'm going to put on my glasses because I have a list of rapid fire responses, and just tell me what comes to your mind.
All
Okay.
right,
What do you like better, thrusters, burpees,
burpees,
assault bike, or rower,
rower,
deadlift or back squat,
deadlift,
barbell snatch or dumbbell snatch?
dumbbell snatch.
All right. And if you had anything that you want to accomplish, I mean, you've been doing it a long time, but is there anything in CrossFit that you have set your sights on to try to accomplish?
Um,
Doesn't you don't have
Not
to.
not really. I mean, on one hand, I think it'd be nice to get the L1 cert, become certified. But partially that's because, well, then, I can just, coach classes, kind of wind down my day job and do some fun stuff. I would say I have fitness goals that aren't necessarily related to CrossFit, just because I've kind of I feel like I've slayed all my CrossFit dragons, but my gym, for example, has recently become a High Rocks affiliate, which
I've
is
heard of
another.
that. Yes, I've heard that's
So
becoming big. Yeah.
yeah, it's really big. So I participated in a High Rocks race a couple months ago, and unfortunately, I didn't finish it. So I would like to finish a High Rocks raid. I would like to maybe return to more kettlebells and get uh, a kettlebell training certificate. Most of those are functions of having more free time.
Yeah.
But I would like to do that. I mean, I want to keep doing what I'm doing in CrossFit. I have no plans on stopping it. It's a big part of my life, and I would say we haven't really covered the kind of mind body stuff as much. But a couple things mentally it's done for me is it's satisfying for one thing, because as you can tell from the diplomas behind me, I'm a lawyer and I'm a litigator, and cases go on a while, and you don't get a lot of closure all the time. CrossFit gym, you walk in there, they say do this, and bang, 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 you do it, and maybe it's stressful and unpleasant physically, but you're done. And
Yeah.
I walk out of the gym at 7 in the morning, like I tackled a hard thing today, and I did it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. I do, the mindfulness and, you know,
Uh,
go ahead. I'm sorry, you cut out.
so it,
Yeah.
it gives you a sense of satisfaction. I have a lot of confidence. I also have confidence, physical confidence. If I don't know if I could do it now, but a few years ago, people would say, "Hey, I'm going to run a half marathon." Okay, great. I'll run a half marathon with you. I'm fine. I don't need to do any particular training. I'm trained as it is, and that's fun. It's always fun having a CrossFit party trick. I can do handstand push-ups, which
Nice.
if I'm in the need to show off, that's
Right.
usually something I can do. So it gives me a lot of confidence knowing that, walking into a room and going, I'll bet there's not that many people here who can,
Right. Yeah.
back
Y-
squat their body weight or something, or whatever it is. So it gives me a
Right.
lot of confidence.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. And as we get older, keeping the circulation going and circulation to the brain, there's nothing better than exercise. And when you combine it with learning new skills and doing new skills, and as you said, that mindfulness piece is so important. I know I find myself, um, in fact, our workout today was the way that I partitioned the Murph. So we didn't do the mile run. So the Murph, for those of you don't know, you run a mile, you do 100 pull-ups, you do 200 push-ups, and you do 300 squats, and then you do a mile run. And some people do it with a vest. So we did what's called the Cindy workout today, which was an AMRAP, which is as many reps as possible, with 5 pull-ups, 10 push-ups, and 15 air squats. And that's what I do 20 times for my Murph, right? But one of the other options, there was another, I forgot, was Mary workout or something, which included the handstand push-ups, which I can't do, and that was part of the other workout. But um, yeah, that mindfulness piece, that confidence, I do find that myself, and that's something that it's also having confidence in the aging process, not being afraid of it, not having to say, "Oh, it sucks getting old" or whatever. Just you have this in the bag, and it helps in so many other aspects. So I'm glad you brought that up, Jim. Thank you so much, for coming on today, for agreeing to do that. You're actually going to be the my launch for this series, this CrossFit Master series. So
Oh,
I'm really,
fantastic.
yeah, yeah. Thank you so much. And I couldn't have picked a better person who's been doing CrossFit for so long. So you're a veteran, and that does hopefully this will help some people out there. So thanks again. Until next time, thanks for joining us. And as you know, I'm Dr. Charles, aka Coach MD, urging you to stay strong in mind, in body, and right here in soul. Bye for now.